thank you all for coming today. The purpose of today's press conference is for me to report on the Business Roundtable meetings that I've had in the month of January. We had 4 meetings around the state, in Rutland, White River, Berlin, and St. Albans. And with me today to help report are people who played a very active role in those meetings, but also are very active in the Vermont business community. Jamie Stewart, who is the Executive Director of the Rutland Economic Development Corporation. Kevin Manahan, who is a partner at A.M. Peisch and Company in the St. Albans branch. And Dori Wolfe, who with her husband is the co-founder of Grow Solar in White River Junction, a tremendous business down in my area. A couple of things. First of all, what I have heard from Vermont business leaders who are on the front lines, loud and clear, is this, that whatever's going on in Wall Street, and however much that has been stabilized, the recession is still with us, and we have a lot of work to do. Too many people are out of work. Too many businesses are struggling to keep it together, keep their employees working so that they can have them be there when the economy comes around. But the message I am hearing is that the recession is still with us and we have a lot of work to do. 3 themes that I heard on a recurring basis, whether it was in St. Albans, Rutland, Berlin, or White River Junction, was that things that would help very concretely would be, 1, increasing small business lending. Businesses need access to capital. And it's quite astonishing, actually, when you see how well the Wall Street banks have done. But even as they've made a lot of money, they've diminished lending. And the burden is falling on our local community banks, who are doing the best they can, and they're doing a very good job. But we need much more help on lending to make it affordable and accessible to our small businesses. Second, we've got to become more fiscally responsible. And that was a recurring concern expressed by business leaders around the state. That is, the federal budget is not in balance, and we have to move with policies that bring us back into balance, even as we have to have some stimulus spending in order to get us through this recession. And third, a real focus on job creation. Investments that can build our infrastructure or help us create jobs in new industries, like energy efficiency and alternative energy, and you'll hear from Dori Wolfe about that, is an area where government should focus, because that's about sustainable, long-term job development. So those are the things that I heard about, among many others, but those were recurring themes. And to speak first about small business lending, Jamie Stewart. Thank you.
And first, I'd just like to thank the Congressman for taking the time and listening to the business community and to the bankers from our region who really see they have a strong role to play in strengthening and regrowing our economy. The simple fact is that the banks in New England on the whole, but particularly in Vermont, were not part of the problem. They were prudent lenders throughout their history. They had working relationships with their borrowers. They know the people. It's a personal connection that they have. And the reality is that the recession has hurt these businesses significantly. And therefore their balance sheets, their profit and losses have taken a hit. And it's made it much more difficult for them to get the necessary financing that they will need to grow out of this recession. Steps taken to support those banks in their efforts to provide the small businesses with lending capital will be absolutely critical to our ability to climb out of this recession. Support of SBA programs has been a start, and that is a big piece. Understanding from regulators that our local banks weren't the problem, giving them the flexibility to address the needs of their customers, the people that they have a history of working with, and understand the character of those companies. That is really going to be a critical component to our being able to move out of this recession in a timely manner. And the support of the Congressman in providing those tools for the banks will be the step that will be necessary to get us there.
Thank you, Gene. And as I mentioned, I heard over and over again from businesses about fiscal responsibility. They have to balance their books. They have to make adjustments in tough times. And they want to see signs that the government is willing to do the same thing. Kevin Manahan is a leader on this issue, and I'd like to introduce him and ask you to make your comments. Thanks, Kevin.
We had a very cordial meeting in St. Albans a few weeks ago, and certainly I think everyone feels that they're in this together. The one common theme is that we do need to tackle the federal deficit, and we need to take measures to become more fiscally responsible. I think people feel that no private entity could survive under the model that the federal government uses. We need to curb spending and get government waste under control. We cannot continue to borrow and spend. Basically, we couldn't do that in the private sector, and we don't feel that the federal government should continue to do that. It seems that when many government programs are put in place, they go on for perpetuity. And there should be some measure, some scrutinization of those programs to ensure that the programs are still serving the purposes for which they were originally established. Most taxpayers that I deal with are not opposed to paying taxes per se, but they are frustrated because they feel that their tax dollars are being wasted. And these are not greedy people. These are caring people, they're compassionate people, they're the same people that would go out and help a neighbor. They're the same people that are very generous with local charitable efforts. I think the difference is at the local level, they see the benefit. Sometimes at the federal level, it gets buried, and they don't see that benefit. So they need to become more part of the process. They need to be more involved and make sure that they're feeling they're getting their money's worth for the taxes that they're paying. I think another point that came across was that citizens used to feel that the government was a partner and a collaborator. And I think now many people, especially businesses, get the impression that sometimes the government is an adversary. You have a private landlord that's competing with government subsidized housing where there may be as much as $250,000 invested in a single apartment unit. And on the other hand, we've got neighborhoods that are crumbling, that are falling apart because older single-family homes have been converted to apartments, and those landlords just simply can't compete with the government subsidized housing that's available. So I think the bottom line is, we all feel that we're in this together, but people feel like they need to get more involved, they need to be more part of the process, and they need to be able to see the value that they're getting for the dollars that are being spent. So.
Thank you, Kevin. Really appreciate it. And our last speaker is Dori, Wolfe, the co-founder and leader at Grow Solar, who has been at the work in a very tough environment of creating jobs. Dori?
Thank you. There's a multitude of reasons to grow the green economy in Vermont, not the least of which is job creation, giving a boost to our local economy by creating clean, well-paying jobs here in the state. And that is what renewable energy does. It keeps energy and quality jobs in the state. You want a solar array on your roof, you have to call a local installer. Federal government has recognized this, and that's exactly what the 30% federal grants for renewable energy systems do. They and the first-in-the-nation feed-in tariff passed this year in Vermont, they both help to create those local jobs and build the industry. As Congressman Welch knows, we need to monitor the progress. We need to make sure there's access to government-backed bridge loans to help float these grants until the projects are installed, inspected, and turned on. And we need to make sure that the grants are offered for a long enough period of time to truly grow a stable industry. Vermont is the perfect place to prove the green economy is a viable solution for our economy and our climate challenges. We are fast becoming the green jobs mecca. As we attract innovative, intelligent people who care about the quality of life and take steps to make it more sustainable. Grow Solar is a perfect example of this, a company that has doubled in revenue every year, maybe not this last year. The new good is flat. We are poised for an exciting 2010 with launching a new product that will streamline the installation process. I am continually impressed with the talent and the commitment of our employees. So with the good work down in Washington that you're doing, we can set Vermont out as an example of the new green economy, both creating jobs and real solutions for the climate challenges we face. Thank you.
Thank you, Dori. I just want to mention some of the things that I'm going to be working hard on when I return to Washington. There's not a quick answer to a very difficult problem like a recession. And this is a severe recession, the highest unemployment since 1982. But even more alarming, people who are out of work for the longest period of time since the Great Depression. This is serious. So we've got to establish a direction to get out of this. And the three things that we've talked about here today give us a direction. Increasing small business lending. And there's two specific things I'm working on. One, the Express Loan Improvement Act with Representative Dahlkemper from Pennsylvania. And what that does is allow a higher guarantee for our small businesses and allows them to increase the loans that they can use up to $1 million. And it's a tremendous partnership where you have our local banks that are doing the underwriting. They know the local borrowers, the local businesses, in partnership with the federal government, working together to get credit out to our firms that need it. And I trust our local banks. And that's what Jamie said. They've been doing the job, and if they were in charge of Wall Street, we wouldn't have this mess that we're in. That is true. Second, President Obama last week in New Hampshire said he wants to increase small business lending by $30 billion, and I'm going to strongly support that, and I hope my Republican colleagues will join me in that. Second, on fiscal responsibility, you know, even as we have some of these investments, we have to get our structural deficit under control. And what Kevin said is so true. And what we can do to help move us in that direction are two things. One, restore pay-as-you-go budgeting. The House and Senate have both passed that legislation. President Obama has indicated he's going to sign it. I was an original sponsor of this and, in fact, invited to the White House when it was unveiled. And that's a discipline. It's not a quick and simple answer. There's no gimmick that's going to get us back in fiscal responsibility, but it imposes the burden on a proponent of a program, whether it's a spending increase or a tax cut, to kick the tires, as Kevin said, and say, hey, how are you going to pay for this? How are we going to sustain it? It's what each of us has to do in our own family budget. It's what every Vermont business has to do. And the government should do that as well. Second, the President, by executive order, is implementing a cost commission, a budget commission. Again, this is to look at the long-term structural issues in our budget. It's overdue. Disappointing that this was going to be a congressional provision. We passed it in the House, but the Senate rejected it. It included no votes from some of our colleagues on the Republican side who had actually been sponsors of it. So it raises some question as to whether it's political. But it's wise to do it, and the President's going to proceed, and I'm going to support that. And then third, you know, maybe the most exciting is we want to create jobs. And it's our businesses that are the job creators. The federal government is a partner, but it really is our businesses, like Grow Solar, that are creating the jobs. And there's two specific things that we can do that would help a lot. One is the Homestar program. That's the energy efficiency program that I've been pushing and is picking up a lot of additional support in Congress, where we invest in efficiency. It can put 600 to 850,000 folks to work. Plumbers, masons, carpenters, electricians, people who are not working like they were when the housing boom was in full swing. That'll save $3 million or $3 billion in energy bills, and it's the equivalent of taking 3 million cars off the road. Also, I continue to support the tax incentives that are providing, helping to provide a market for alternative energy. It's very alarming to me that as we talk about renewable energy and alternative energy and efficiency, the Chinese are getting ahead of us in actually doing it. And we want those jobs here. We don't want to be exporting those jobs abroad. So that's very, very important. And then second, if I've heard of one area where folks believe we do have to invest, it's in infrastructure. It's our water and sewer systems, it's our roads and bridges, and it's in our smart grid. And railroad. And two recent announcements that are going to be really tremendous for Vermont are the $69 million grant that the utilities in Vermont are receiving to do the smart grid. They're matching that with their own investment. That's tremendous potential for us on saving energy and creating jobs. And then secondly, a $50 million investment of stimulus money for repairing and improving the rail line on the eastern side of the state. And a lot of us want to match that by addressing the needs of the railroad on the western part of the state. But these are long-term investments where generations benefit, and it's not just a one-time hit or a new program without any sustainable funding. So those are the specific things that I'll be working on that try to make progress in the directions that Kevin, Dori, and Jamie have advocated. And stop there and we can take questions, and you can direct questions to anyone you want, as you always do.
I wonder if we could get from Kevin and Jamie the sense of the economy in your two parts of the state. Is it recovering? Are we still in recession here? What's your sense?
From my point of view, I think we are still in a recession. I think, in particular, in Franklin County, we're very dependent on the agricultural industry. And the agricultural industry, as everybody knows, is in as bad a shape now as they've ever been. It's very difficult for Vermont at the state level to do a lot because of the ratio of farms to taxpayers and what that would do to the state budget. So, you know, they're very dependent on what can happen federally, and they're such a small part of the federal picture that that doesn't give them a lot of clout either. So from my point of view, from a Franklin County perspective, I think we are still seeing, you know, people are hurting, and it's not going to change overnight. So.
And I think just to quickly add that, I would tell you that for Rutland County, most people know that there was a period where Rutland County was the highest unemployment rate in the state, primarily because there was a double hit. We saw a lot of loss of jobs in the manufacturing sector, which is a key sector for us, and as well as
scoot over a little bit so the mic's picking up.
I'm sorry, as well as with the tourism sector. It was kind of a double hit. I've spent a lot of time meeting and talking with the manufacturers over the last year, have seen a progression in what they're seeing. There has been a turn. We're no longer seeing the wholesale losses that were occurring through the first half of last year. But what we haven't seen is a recovery that's robust enough to really create the jobs to replace the ones that have been lost yet. And that's still coming, but there are positive signs. And I think that's the most important thing, is to understand that we had strong businesses that took the steps necessary to survive the recession and are really starting to show signs that they're coming to the other side of it.
Can I follow up on that last point? It sounds like some of the businesses are coming back, but at what point does it trickle down to the employees? And we've heard some companies talk about adding hundreds of jobs, but those are over a period of months or years. And so is Vermont really going to be trailing the rest of the country on that recovery?
No, I think that it's pretty common. The situation that we're in is really no different from when I talk to my counterparts from other parts of the Northeast, in particular in Middle Atlantic states. Everybody has the same situation, where there was a lot of excess capacity within our manufacturing sector in particular. The signs that I've been looking at that point to resurgence or a strengthening of that sector is that they're starting to go into overtime. And what you'll find is that these companies, before they start bringing people back, will utilize and try to fill the capacity that they currently have first. And they had a ways to go to get there. And so we are seeing the first signs of that through increased work hours with the existing employment base. As things improve to a level that exceeds their ability to meet the needs with the existing people, then they'll start bringing on additional employees.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much.